Welcome, everybody, to the Sleeperwire Show. I'm your host, Professor Chris, and with me today, I have two great guests. I have George from Break from the Grind podcast. What's going on, George?
What is going on, Chris? How the hell are you doing this evening?
I am doing awesome. I'm so excited because we are recording right before the very first NFL game of the season, right before Eagles-Falcons are coming on. It's going to be a good one. Lucas, you're also on the show, too. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. I can't wait for this kickoff.
I know, man. We're going to try to get the show done fast.
Fly right there. And that's the show. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, there you go, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week. All right, well, we are back for the 2018 regular season, amping it up to 4 Sleeperwire shows every single week. So we've got the Thursday show, but started kicking off the week. We have the Sunday Blitz every single Sunday. And if you don't know what this is a really cool thing. This is where we answer your questions live on air every single Sunday morning before the games, answering questions from 11:30 to 12:45 Eastern Standard Time. You can call in, you can write in, listen while you're listening to our Mixler channel, so mixler.com/Sleeperwire. You can type up questions on Sleeperbot. We'll have a post on there. We answer every single question that comes in, which, you know, Lucas, George, you were on it last season. We were getting 200 questions.
Yeah, it was hectic. I did about 4 or 5 episodes last year. It was crazy. The calls would come in. You'd be getting questions left and right. Had a couple of good calls, had a couple of bad calls. You know, it is what it is. But really looking forward to doing it again this year.
Yeah, you know what? If we could get them all right, we'd be rich.
Exactly.
Oh, but it certainly is fun. So we answer every single question that comes in. That's a Sunday Blitz on Sunday mornings. We've also got the Monday Weekend Review Show. It comes out every Tuesday. It also includes waiver wire talk on there so that you can put those claims in before they clear on a Wednesday. We have a live Wednesday night mail sack show where you can call into the show then as well. Post questions live. We answer all of the questions. You can listen into the show live. You don't have to, listen to a recorded version later. You can tune in. And of course, the Thursday show, that's what this show is, where every single Thursday we record the weekend preview. That's this show. And on today's show, on the Thursday show, we have matchups that we're going to talk about. Start sit for those borderline players. And we're going to have a new segment, Flex Those Muscles, along with streaming quarterbacks. Guys, I'm so excited for football to be back.
It's about time. It's been missed.
The longest half of the year is now officially over.
Yep. Christmas Day is here. You guys want to make any predictions on the game tonight? By the time people are listening to this, they're going to know who won, obviously. But
I think the Falcons take it.
I think that Mohamed Sanu is the most valuable wide receiver on the Falcons tonight.
You think the Falcons can beat Super Bowl winning quarterback Nick Foles?
Yes.
Nick who? Nick who?
So I got an alert just a little bit ago from Sleeperbot saying that they don't expect Carson Wentz to play for the next few weeks. So yeah, if I wouldn't be surprised if they actually come out and they lose the first couple of games until he comes back. I think Nick Foles played the games of his career last year, and he'd have to do it again. I just don't see it. They're already missing Alshon Jeffrey. That backfield, who knows what to do back there. It's a mess. I'm not a fan of anybody back there. They're missing their best wide receiver. They're missing their starting quarterback. I just don't see them being as good as they were last year.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. But we'll talk about this the next couple Thursdays as well. But let's go ahead and hit it now. Nick Foles, is he going to be a streaming candidate for a couple weeks? Or does it depend on what he does tonight, Lucas?
I'm not a Nick Foles truther. I don't think so. I'm not playing him. I have other guys that I would rather use, especially with Alshon out. So we'll just see what happens, but I would say no.
I would say no as well. Right now, you've got a full complement of quarterbacks. Nobody's on buys. There's no reason you should be starting Nick Foles. There's somebody better on the waiver wire, I guarantee you, and we'll talk about that later.
All right, there you have it. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the matchups here. All right, so kicking it off, I'm going in no particular order. I Googled NFL Week 1 matchups, and whatever Google brought up, that's the order that we're going in. I'm not starting with this game because I'm a Colts fan, but we're going to kick it off with Bengals at Indianapolis. Bengals taking on the Colts this week. So, some start-sit players in here. I saw this on Twitter, and George, I think I saw you commenting on it as well. Andy Dalton, is he a stream?
So, I don't want to foreshadow, but he is actually my stream of the week. But within that particular thread that we were talking, one of the options was Lucas's stream of the week as well, which was Tyrod Taylor. So if I had a choice between Dalton and Taylor, I would definitely start Taylor. I just think there's more upside there. But, I mean, listen, if you've got a quarterback that you're not feeling good about, if you drafted Carson Wentz, and that situation kind of reminds me a lot of the Andrew Luck last year, where he's going to start, and now he's going to miss a few weeks. Yeah, I don't know. If you took him early and you took Dalton as a backup, I'm okay playing Dalton against that Indianapolis Colts defense. It's a terrible defense. There's a lot of good offensive weapons on the Bengals. A.J. Green, Joe Mixon, Gio Bernard, Tyler Eifert is allegedly healthy. So, I mean, you've got options there. They're good options. It's a terrible defense. I don't hate it at all. It's indoors in the dome, so you don't have to worry about rain or anything like that. So I like Andy Dalton this week. I don't object to anybody playing him in a pinch.
Lucas, what about you? Who are you excited about in this matchup?
Oh, in this particular matchup, I would like to see how Wilkins does. I'm hoping Mack is out. I just want to see Wilkins get some touches and see what he can do with the ball. I'm not going to say I'm excited to see Andrew Luck, but I am curious. I'm intrigued to see him. I want to see him out there in a real game. I want to see him throwing the ball out there all game, and I want to see the connection between him and T.Y. and see if it's still there.
Yeah, the Colts fan in me is definitely excited for Andrew Luck to be back. I'm glad he got hit in the preseason. I think a big part of it was psychological, but once he got hit a couple times and bounced up, I think he's going to return to form. Might take a couple weeks, but he's going to be fun to watch. And T.Y. Hilton, I think, is going to be great too. Who wins this game, George?
I'm going to go with the Colts. I think the Colts, I want to see Andrew Luck. I think they're a better team overall than the Bengals. I think it'll be a little bit more high scoring than most people think. I think Andrew Luck is a top 5 quarterback, and I think he'll play like that. Like you, I was excited. It sounds weird, but I was excited to see Andrew Luck get hit. Yep. I was not a fan of Andrew Luck come back. I had been saying all offseason, I want to see him get hit and get back up, and then I'll believe he's back. And until that happens, I won't believe it. But we've seen it in the offseason. He played pretty good. I want to see him throw it deep to T.Y. Hilton a few times, because I've got a lot of T.Y. Hilton stocks all over the place because he was going so cheap. So I would love to see the Colts come out and just Andrew Luck show that he is back and that the Colts are going to be an offensive juggernaut.
All right, Lucas, real quick, who wins? Two offensive powerhouses right here.
Yeah, I don't know. To be truthful, I think it's going to be an ugly game. I think there's going to be a lot of turnovers. But I actually think Cincinnati is going to squeak this one out.
All right, and I got to root for my Colts at home. Moving on to the second matchup of the week, Bills at Ravens. So some of the fantasy relevant guys we got in here, not a whole lot. I mean, LaShawn McCoy, automatically going to start him, but that may be the only guy who's an auto start outside of Alex Collins. Charles Clay, starting him this week?
If you have him, I don't see why not. I don't know who else that Peterman's really going to be throwing to. I mean, Benjamin, Charles Clay just seems like the safest play possibly of any.
Oh, yeah, and if you guys haven't heard, Mr. 4 interception in 1 half, Nathan Peterman is starting this game.
Give him a break. He was playing the Chargers. They are a pretty good defense.
How many other teams played the Chargers and threw 4 picks?
This is true. No, but listen, the only auto starter in here, like you said, is probably going to be McCoy and Alex Collins. I could see in some deeper leagues, maybe a John Brown, trying to play a contrarian play on daily. I don't think John Brown or Crabtree are terrible plays, but I think this is going to be just an ugly game because the Ravens defense is so good and the Bills offense is just so bad.
That is true. I think we see a lot of ground and pound, but I actually think that I'm pretty sure that we're going to see Michael Crabtree find the end zone here. I think he's going to be a favorite target of Flacco this season.
So is he a start or a sit candidate? Say you're going for a flex. If you have Michael Crabtree, no matter who else you're going against, would you play him this week?
I would. Yeah,
I
like Crabtree as a play.
Yeah, I would play him against the Bills as well.
I like it. The only other fantasy relevant guy in there may be Kelvin Benjamin, because he's the number one for the Bills. But I don't think we're playing Benjamin. I think the only guys on the Bills we could play would be Charles Clay and LaShawn McCoy. Am I right?
Correct.
Yep.
All right. Moving on. Next game, Buccaneers at Saints. So a division rivalry game here. You're obviously starting Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas, most likely Mike Evans. Those are the big names. But some of the guys that you might be on the fence about starting. Peyton Barber. Let's talk about him. Now, I'm glad Hoos isn't on the show because he's the biggest Peyton Barber fan in the world, and I don't like Peyton Barber, and I don't want to give him a platform to talk about it more than he already does.
Guess what? You're gonna start Peyton Barber this year. You're going to start Peyton Barber against the Saints.
I have him on a couple teams. I didn't want to admit it. I don't want Hoos to know that, but, it is what it is. Is he a start this week against the Saints? Keep in mind, Jameis Winston's out, so they're starting quarterback. They've got Ryan Fitzpatrick back there. Is Peyton Barber startable?
He's definitely flex worthy. I've got no problem with anybody who puts him in a flex. That he's worth it. He's going to be the starting running back. There's not many teams going against many other teams that you would sit a starting running back against. So, yeah, you're going to play him. You're going to play him in the flex and hope that he can barrel his way into the end zone.
What if it came to, let's say, Peyton Barber or Isaiah Crowell?
I would take Peyton Barber.
Yeah. Crowell against Detroit's defense, that could get ugly. But I do like Crowell as a player, though. I just think he can't find a home on a half-ass decent team.
Yeah. Hasn't been able to so far. Anybody else in this game that's even really worth talking about?
What about Chris Godwin?
I think we still need to see something from him before we start talking about playing him.
I'm really excited to see how Drew Brees and that offense spreads the ball around through the air. You have the addition of Traquan Smith, the rookie, out of the slot. There's been a lot of talk about Cameron Meredith. That's been a big question mark there. And we still have Ted Ginn. And then they added old man Ben Watson. So
Father time.
Yeah. So I'm really curious to see where the target shares lie this season, because we know Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara are going to get theirs. And then I'm kind of curious to see how Mike Gillislee does. I think Mike Gillislee is pretty underrated as a player, and that could actually hurt Mark Ingram going forward.
So do you think it's going to have any impact on Kamara or on Ingram?
No, nothing on Kamara. I mean, we saw what Kamara was. As long as, Kamara's going to have a little bit of regression, but a few more touches this year. So I think Kamara finishes with around the same points, and he's someone who actually benefits from having a bruiser there to help wear down the defense, because he is so fast that when the defense is a little tired and he's fully rested, you just see what happens when he breaks away these huge plays. So Kamara is actually someone that does better with someone to share a little bit of time with.
Yeah, I actually tweeted out at near the end of last season, I think it's still probably going to be true, that Alvin Kamara is the next LaDainian Tomlinson.
That's bold. I don't know if I go that far.
That dude is good.
It's pretty bold, but I like it. I have him as a keeper. 13th round this year, felt good.
Man, I'm so jealous.
People are like, you drafted him last year? He was on my waiver wire for 4 weeks. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Keeper leagues, baby.
Yeah, keeper leagues are great. Actually, one of mine, if you want to keep a player, you can keep two. You have to keep him at a 2-round penalty. I drafted Darius Geis in the last round a couple nights ago, just because it was the 15th round. I get to keep him for a 13th next year. If I don't have any better options, I'm totally okay with that.
Absolutely.
But we do have Alvin Kamara as our number 3 running back. So we've got actual Sleeperwire rankings this year that we compiled from a group of us here at Sleeperwire. We have Kamara at number 3. So go to sleeperwire.com/rankings. You can check that out. Let's move to the next game, Texans at Patriots. So clearly you're starting Deshaun Watson. You're starting DeAndre Hopkins, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, probably Chris Hogan. But some of the guys that are on the fence, Lamar Miller. So he's most likely going to be your RB2 or RB3. Is he startable against in Foxborough against the Patriots, George?
Yes, he is. When he played last year with Lamar Miller, not with Lamar Miller, but with Deshaun Watson, he was at running back 1. He fell off when Deshaun Watson went down. I expect him to pick right back up where he left off last year as being a top 12 running back.
Totally agree. What about you, Lucas?
I'm not quite in the top 12 running back argument just because of how good the top 12 really are this year. He would have to beat out some pretty good players to get to that spot. So I'm not quite there, but I do think that because he's with Hopkins and Watson, that's going to help him quite a bit. So I do see him as a mid to high end RB2 by the end of the season if Deonta Foreman doesn't come back and take too many touches or that job away from him.
Do you guys know where Lamar Miller finished in PPR last season?
Not off the top of my head, I don't.
So it was a bad season for him, right?
It was a
All
bad
things
season.
considered.
It was a bad season for running backs, let's just be honest.
RB16. Lamar Miller was still a fairly high RB2 last year in a bad year.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, it was bad, especially for where you were drafting him, but not nearly as bad as people are making it out to me. Lamar Miller could very easily break that wide receiver 1 cusp. I don't think he's going to be top 10, but top 11, get that 11 or 12 spot, that could easily happen. Sony Michel, do you want to see what he's got, or you plugging him in this week?
I'm not starting him anywhere. I want to see him be able to hold on to the ball. He's coming off an injury. He didn't get a whole lot of play in the preseason because of the injury. I wouldn't feel comfortable plugging him in right away week 1. I just outside of an extremely deep league, 16 team, maybe even a 14 team, I would maybe flex him at that point. But in a typical 10 to 12 team league, I'm not starting that guy at all.
And Lucas, what about Will Fuller? He's startable?
Yeah, I guess he is, just purely because of Watson and Hopkins and everything else that they have going on. I don't think Will Fuller is really that good. I think the guy that we're going to see emerge as the number 2 there is Kiki, who's actually pretty talented and quick. But Will Fuller seems to produce with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, but Fuller had 7 touchdowns in 4 games.
Yeah, but he's not a good player.
Touchdown regression is coming.
Oh, yeah, there's no way he keeps that up. I think that's a huge argument you can make against Deshaun Watson, too. I still have him as a top 5 quarterback, but, he's not throwing 19 touchdowns every 5 games. Not this season. Moving on, next matchup, we have Titans at Dolphins. So we've got this running back conundrum here in the Titans backfield. Some people are Dion Lewis believers. Some people are Derrick Henry believers. I am a Dion Lewis truther. As soon as he signed with the Titans back in March, Seb, as soon as it happened, I tweeted Dion Lewis is going to have more points at the end of the season than Derrick Henry in all formats. And I still believe that. Lucas, which side are you on, Dion Lewis or Derrick Henry?
I like Dion Lewis as a player more. I think Derrick Henry will serve the role that he needs to, but he was not able to usurp an aging and ailing DeMarco Murray last year. That was pretty bad to me. He's not able to really hit the edge, and he had some big runs towards the end of games that really skewed his numbers and made him look like his yards per carry were better. But he will serve. Honestly, he will help Dion Lewis by helping to wear out the defense. Let me just put it this way: I have 0 shares of Henry this year.
Oh yeah, same here. I was not going to take him at his 3rd round ADP. George, what about you?
I have lots of Henry shares, to be honest. I really do. I actually like Henry more than Dion Lewis, and the reason why is his health. Last year was the very first year in his career Dion Lewis played all 16 games. If the Patriots would have thought he was that good, they would have re-signed him and not let him walk. And then they wouldn't have had to waste a first-round pick on Sonny Michel. I think Henry, for what he did last year, was pretty good. Just shy of 750 yards, averaged 4.2 yards per carry, had 5 touchdowns. I think he'll end up close to 1,200 yards this year and close to 10 touchdowns. I think you're going to see Dion Lewis will maybe outpace him as far as fantasy scoring to start the year. But as the year moves on and as Dion Lewis breaks down, as he does every year in his career, with the exception of last year, you'll see Henry dominate more touches in that backfield because he's built to last, where Dion Lewis is just not built to last.
All right, let's talk about a couple wide receivers before we move on to the next game. Corey Davis, is he startable?
Not on my teams.
I don't know any Corey Davis either.
Okay.
I don't love that offense.
No, I'm not asking if you would start him if you had. Just, is he a startable player? I don't really give a shit about your personal teams.
I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand there. There's a reason I didn't draft him is because I don't believe in him.
Okay.
He's a pretty decent talent, but I'm not a Mariota guy. So I'd be surprised if Corey Davis finishes any higher than wide receiver 20 this year, but I don't think he even finishes as a wide receiver 2.
Well, let's take the 2 wide receivers that we're going to talk about here and just do this guy or this guy. Kenny Stills or Corey Davis this week?
Kenny Stills.
Yeah, Kenny Stills.
All right, I'm leaning the same way. Jaguars at New York Giants. So Blake Bortles, we'll talk about him a little bit later. The guys who are definitely starting, Leonard Fournette, obviously a clear star. Odell Beckham, Evan Engram. Nobody else is really standing out as, yes, you must start this guy. Oh, as Saquon Barkley, I guess.
I was just about to say there's a Saquon guy.
But some on-the-fence guys. Keelan Cole, a lot of hype around him. George, is he startable?
I'm starting him in a couple of leagues.
Okay.
It's more out of necessity than anything. But I'm starting him, and I'm actually feeling confident that he'll go out and he'll put up decent numbers. I think by the end of the year, he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver in that offense. He did fantastic at the end of last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he finished within the top 20 to 18 range as wide receivers this year.
All right. Lucas, what about Keelan Cole or the other wide receiver 2 in this game, Sterling Shepard? Who would you rather play this week?
Wow, that's really good because I like Sterling Shepard a lot, but I think Keelan Cole is going to see a higher target volume, so I would lean Keelan Cole.
Yeah, and you also don't want to start Sterling Shepard against the Jacksonville D.
I don't love it, but I'm more nervous about OBJ.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they're going to try to make a point here.
Nervous enough to bench him?
No, absolutely not, but I still think it's a very tough game for him.
All right. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, do you have any shares of him?
I do not.
No.
I do like it. I do like him though. I just generally only roll with one tight end, and he wasn't one that I ended up with.
Yeah, he's one that is probably not drafted outside of dynasty leagues. Next game here, Steelers at Browns. So James Conner, the big name that we've been hearing a lot about because Le'Veon Bell has still not reported to the Steelers. Not expected to play on Sunday. He's most likely going to miss that game. There's been reports that he's going to stay out until week 10 so that he automatically gets to be a free agent at the end of the season. So we're not going to speculate on whether or not Le'Veon Bell is going to miss the whole season. Let's talk about James Conner. If Bell is out, is James Conner an auto start, Lucas?
Auto start, I guess he's an RB2 for me. So he's kind of a middling RB2 because we don't really know what the usage is going to be. We assume he's going to get a lot of touches. I still want to see how they use him.
I'm auto starting him. I'm starting him, and I'm starting him ahead of guys like Jordan Howard. Just that's based on the matchup. I'd start him ahead of Alex Collins. I'd start him ahead of Jamal Williams. I think he's going to come in and be fantastic. We've seen how the Steelers operate. They done it every year that Le'Veon Bell's missed the game. They had Williams come in, and they fed him. They didn't split the backfield. They didn't share it with nobody. It was one person's backfield until Bell came back, and I think they're going to do the same thing with James Conner.
So they're not going to maybe get Jalen Samuels a lot of work in there? Not going to split it 50-50 or anything? Okay.
I don't believe so at all. That's not typically what we've seen from Pittsburgh in years past when Le'Veon Bell does not play.
All right. Carlos Hyde or Duke Johnson, who would you rather start? Steelers defense is pretty good.
Hyde, no question for me.
Yeah, I would start Hyde.
Yep, same thing here as well. Is Duke flexible in a PPR, or are you just sort of fading him now that Hyde caught 58 passes last season? He's no slouch when it comes to the receiving game.
Yeah, I think they do find ways to get Duke Johnson the ball still. I think his role's slightly diminished from what it was last year, but in PPR that's still a serviceable role.
Yeah, he's not going to finish as a top 11. I think it was like the number 11 overall back last year in PPR.
Yeah, he was an RB1.
He's not finishing. He's not going to finish as an RB1 this year, but he's definitely flex worthy. If you need to flex him out, no problem with that. He's got a safe floor.
Okay, I like it. Juju Smith-Schuster, 4th-round pick for a lot of people. Most people who have him, maybe he slipped to the 5th round. I think you have to play him against the Browns as well.
Yeah,
you spent that draft capital on him.
Yeah, anybody you're taking, most likely anybody you're taking within the first 6 rounds, you're starting no matter what. So with his ADP, where you're drafting him, the capital you spent on him, you're starting Juju, and it's a safe bet to start him. He's extremely good. He fell shy just of 1,000 yards last year, and that was sharing with Martavis Bryant getting thrown in there a little bit. So I expect big things from Juju. I think Pittsburgh will have 2 1,000-yard receivers this year.
Ooh, okay. All right.
I like it. Bold, but I think it works. Yep. Kansas City Chiefs travel to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers in L.A. Keenan Allen, and you're going to start Keenan Allen no matter what. Phillip Rivers is a great option every single week. Tyreek Hill, I think you're starting automatically. Melvin Gordon and Kareem Hunt. So there's a lot of fantasy relevance in this game right here. But there's also a lot of guys who could have big games. So let's talk about the quarterback for the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. George, how do you like him this week? Is he playable against that Chargers defense?
Nope. I'm just going to leave it at nope.
All right.
Correct answer.
No, that Chargers defense is nasty. This will be his first real start, and I don't want to hear that he played Week 17 last year. I don't care. This is his first real start where the team he's playing against actually has got its starters on the field. Yep. I don't trust him. He's going to have a lot of interceptions. He'll throw for some yards because that's what he does. He'll run for some yards, but he's going to have a lot of interceptions. I want to see him play a few games before I trust just throwing him out there. I'm not as high on Mahomes as a lot of people are.
What about Sammy Watkins? Is he playable this week, or do you kind of want to see what Mahomes is going to do with Watkins and Hill first before you play Sammy Watkins? Because a lot of people are really high on him. A lot of people would prefer to have Watkins out there on their fantasy team than Tyreek Hill. What do you think, Lucas?
No, I would rather have Tyreek Hill, and I do not like Sammy Watkins. I think that he probably only plays half a season. I think he gets injured again, and it could be tonight.
Yeah,
that would hurt my feelings if he went out and got injured tonight because he's not even playing tonight.
Yep.
That's how much that I think that he's likely to get hurt. I'm sitting here watching this right now, and it's raining, so all the reporters are standing over the overhang. I don't even think this game tonight's going to start on time.
Really? You think it's going to be delayed, huh?
I do. I mean, it's supposed to start in, 10 minutes?
Yep, something like that.
Yeah.
What about Mike Williams? Phenomenal young wide receiver talent. I think he's probably a pretty good DFS play. Not going to cost you very much.
I love Mike Williams. I am curious to see how he is used. So I'm not starting him in any of my leagues, but I do have a lot of shares of him.
Yeah, Mike Williams might be my most owned player.
I love it.
All right, Dallas Cowboys travel to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Dak Prescott, I didn't put him in the show notes. I love Dak this year. I think he's been so disrespected in drafts. He was great last season when he had Zeke and his left tackle. But moving on here, Zeke, obviously you're going to start. Cam Newton, you're going to start. Is there anybody else? Greg Olsen, most likely, but let's talk about the Cowboys. Allen Hurns and Michael Gallup. If you had to pick one, who would you play?
I'm going to defer to Lucas on this subject.
Oh, yeah, the Cowboy fan.
Michael Gallup. I think he has the X factor. I have 1 share of Hurns and 2 of Gallup, but Gallup is the one that I'm excited to watch play. I think Hurns gets his targets, but I don't see him hitting 1,000 yards this season.
George, what about you? Hurns or Gallup?
If you make me pick one, I'm going to take Gallup. We've seen Hurns before. Maybe this is a case of the shiny new toy, but I'll go with Gallup on this one as well.
Now let's talk about the Panthers wide receivers, DJ Moore and Devin Funchess. So I think Funchess, you can probably safely start. He was pretty good last year, and now that he's going to be the sole number one, I mean, you got DJ Moore there as well, but no Kelvin Benjamin even to start the season. Who would you rather play, Moore or Funchess?
For me, it depends on the league scoring. If it's a standard league, I'm going to go with Funchess. I just think he's a bigger red zone target. So I see him getting a lot of use down in the red zone, and I think that's where you'll get a lot of return on him this year. I think is down in the red zone. But if it's a PPR, I'm going to go with DJ Moore. I think he gets more catches and more yards this year.
I don't disagree with that take.
Yeah, I don't really like Devin Funchess, so by default, I'm going to say DJ Moore. Washington travels to Arizona. Redskins at Cardinals. Are we starting Adrian Peterson this week? It's been announced that he's going to be the starter for the Redskins. Now, that's something you got to take with a grain of salt. Everybody sees, oh, he's starting or, oh, he's not starting. And all that means is that he's starting the first play of the game. Like, we got that report from Hugh Jackson that says, oh, Josh Gordon is not going to start. Yeah, but he might be out there for the second play.
Yeah, he's gonna get some work.
Right. So AP is gonna get some work, you're saying?
I think he does. I think he's gonna get out and get 15 touches.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I mean, I guess you could say it's a revenge game because he's going against the Cardinals. I mean, if you believe in that kind of thing, great. But I think AP is the starter. I think you'll see a lot of him and Chris Thompson. I think even at his advanced age, AP is still better than Rob Kelly and Samaje Perine.
I agree. And I also think that CT is a guy that if you have him, start him. Unless you just have three better running backs on your team, which you could if you got CT late. But I think Chris Thompson's safe to play week 1.
Now, say you had both of them. Would you rather start AP or Chris Thompson?
That's tough. In standard, I think that I would have them about the same. I might lean slightly to Adrian Peterson, but in any kind of half point or full point, I would take CT.
Agreed.
Yep, I'm leaning the same way, and I'm saying that as someone who doesn't really like Chris Thompson that much. So, yeah, let's talk about some wide receivers here. Paul Richardson or Josh Doxson? I think Richardson's going to be the Redskins' number 1 wide receiver this season.
See, this is one that I haven't made up my mind yet. The jury is out for me with the Redskins wide receivers. I
said that
curious.
on Jake Seeley's show, and he did not agree with me.
It's Alex Smith, and they've added Paul Richardson there. The jury is out for me.
I'm taking Crowder. I'm going to take Crowder.
See, that's what it is I just don't have a strong feeling towards any of these 3 guys.
All right. See, I really like Paul Richardson because we saw what Alex Smith did with Tyreek Hill last year. Richardson is almost just as fast. I mean, he ran like a 4.34 or a 4.38 or something like that. He is crazy fast, but he's got better hands than Tyreek Hill. Paul Richardson has really good hands. So I really think he can do some damage with Alex Smith. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. Christian Kirk, he playable? You want to see what he can do first?
I don't think he's playable this year.
No.
I mean, this game.
Nope, not playable. Just don't do it.
All right, just 4 games left here. Seahawks at Broncos. On the Seattle side of the ball, Russell Wilson, most likely an auto star. Are you guys playing Doug Baldwin this year? He came out and said he's never going to be 100% this season.
If I own Doug Baldwin, and first off, I own him and he's playing, I'm playing him. Just due to the sheer fact that who else on that team is going to get targets? You're going to tell me Brandon Marshall, you're going to tell me Tyler Lockett. No, Doug Baldwin is going to be the guy getting the targets there. So I'm going to play him. And if he goes out and he has 86 yards and a touchdown, we'll say, as soon as the season or the week is over, I'm reaching out and I'm trying to trade him as fast as possible because I think as the year goes on, that injury is going to get worse. So if he goes out and has a good game, I would try to recommend that anybody try to sell him for whatever you can get after the first week.
Yeah, it's a good take.
Go ahead, Lucas.
I'm just agreeing.
Have an original thought for once. Come on.
Okay.
All right, so Ed Dixon, though, is not going to be playing. I think is he on the IR or the PUP? I forget which one it is. But Nick Vannett, tight end for the Seattle Seahawks, could be pretty decent this season in Dixon's absence. I mean, Jimmy Graham finished as a top 5 tight end last year. I'm not by no means saying Nick Vannett's going to do that. But Russell Wilson throws to the tight end position in the red zone. We saw him do it with Luke Wilson as well. Is he someone to keep an eye on? Or do you just not really care?
He's not someone I'm really interested in.
I'm passing.
All right. Let's go to the Broncos side of the ball here. Demaryius Thomas, I think you're definitely starting him. What about Emmanuel Sanders? People are taking him, 6th, 7th round. That's a flex player right there. Is he a start this week against that Seattle defense, which is a shell of what it used to be?
I think that Emmanuel Sanders is going to end up as the number one wide receiver at the end of the year for the Broncos. Here's why. He was targeted on about 60 to 65% of his routes run in the preseason by Case Keenum, as opposed to Demaryius Thomas was targeted on like 15% of his routes run. We saw Case Keenum made Adam Thielen a number one wide receiver last year out of the slot. Emmanuel Sanders is going to be Case's guy this year. I guarantee it. He's going to have his best season ever.
I don't know if I'm going as far as best season ever, but I think you'll see vast improvement in the passing game with Case Keenum back there. I think you could start Emmanuel Sanders and feel confident that he's going to produce for you.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. Sunday night football here. Bears at Packers, so a divisional game to end our first Sunday of the NFL season. Jordan Howard, I think you're definitely starting. Aaron Rodgers, clearly definitely starting him. Devontae Adams for sure. Jimmy Graham for sure. Trey Burton for sure. But some of the on-the-fence guys. I've had a lot of questions on the Sleeper app. Do I start Allen Robinson or this guy on my flex this week? So I didn't put him in the flex column. I just want to ask you guys, Allen Robinson or Josh Gordon?
Josh Gordon for me. I don't like Allen Robinson at all.
I'm going to go Allen Robinson just because we know for sure what his role is going to be in that offense. I mean, we all expect Josh Gordon to play, but we don't really know how much the first week. So at least we know with Allen Robinson, he's going to play the whole first game.
That's true. We certainly do. Jamal Williams, you playing him this week? I mean, he's basically got the backfield to himself. Ty Montgomery is there, but he's, more of the passing down guy. I mean, he played wide receiver, for God's sake. And Aaron Jones is out for a couple games. Are you going to throw Williams in there to see if he can try to earn that job by playing really well?
This is a tough run defense, and they got even better when they added Khalil Mack. I really liked the Chicago run defense. I'm not expecting a whole lot of Jamal Williams this week, to be honest, and I think it's a lot more to do with the matchup more than anything. I don't think it's a talent issue.
But the Packers are going to score so many points through the air that they'll have to run the ball.
Okay.
Right? That's what I'm going to say.
Okay. Yeah, and that defense is still going to be on the field. Their front seven is really, really good. I don't think there's going to be a lot of room for Jamal Williams to do a whole lot of anything. You can gamble on him if you want. This week, I feel more comfortable playing Ty Montgomery than I do Jamal Williams.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. I don't see that because I think that Jamal Williams had more receiving yards and rushing yards than Ty Montgomery last year. And Jamal Williams is the better pass blocker out of the two, so I think he's going to get a lot more snaps. And I think that you see him catching several balls also. So I think that you can expect 80 yards, all-purpose yards out of Jamal Williams and possibly a touchdown. So I think he's an okay play.
I just think there's more of a comfort level with Aaron Rodgers and Ty Montgomery than Aaron Rodgers and Jamal Williams.
Okay, I could see it, but I still think Jamal is more productive this week.
Moving on, the last two matchups of the week. This new tradition that the NFL has been doing the last couple seasons: 2 Monday Night Football games, kicking it off with a doozy, Jets at Lions. Right?
Does it get any better?
There's a reason that this is the early game. I'm not sure. This one, I'm not excited to watch at all. There's really no one on either side of the ball outside of a couple of the Lions, Matthew Stafford and Golden Tate, who are automatic starts in my opinion. Maybe Marvin Jones if you're really into him like Lucas is.
Yeah, you got to start Marvin Jones.
Yeah, you're starting Marvin Jones. Yeah, I was going to say, wait a second here.
If you're super into him.
So how about?
I think he's okay.
So what do you guys think about the Lions backfield? So my take on the Lions backfield has been, and I wrote it down here in my notes: avoid running backs, because there's not one running back that I think is gonna be consistently productive all year between Kerryon Johnson, LeGarrette Blount, and Theo Riddick. I think they all have individual roles, and I think they all kind of. If they were all one person, that'd be great, but they're 3 different people, so I see a complete committee backfield back there.
The only one I drafted in any league was Kerryon Johnson, and that was only for keeper leagues. In this matchup, I would start LeGarrette Blount over Riddick and Kerryon.
I think that we're going to be surprised with LeGarrette Blount this year. I own Kerryon in several leagues, and I think that he's a great player, but I think that LeGarrette Blount is going to be very annoying in the amount of touches that he gets and the amount of red zone work. And I think in a standard league, LeGarrette Blount could finish as like bottom end RB2 this year.
All right. What about Robbie Anderson? I really, really like Robbie Anderson's talent. He is a wide receiver 1 talent. I'm not saying he is a wide receiver 1, but we've seen him put up wide receiver 1 numbers for 4 or 5 straight weeks last season. You playing him this week against the Lions, George?
Nope. Because he's got Darius Slay covering him, and I think Darius Slay is gonna close him down. I'm not thrilled with what they've gotten as far as the quarterback department in the Jets either. And going against this defense, I think the Lions are going to feast all over that Jets offense. Honestly, I didn't write anybody down that I would start this week from the Jets.
Okay. So I've seen another show, or not really seen, I've heard them. They pump up Bilal Powell every single year. And I'm not going to name who they are or anything. Stop it. Yeah, I posted that on Twitter. Stop trying to make him a thing. It's his age 29 season. He's not, he's a solid flex option any given week. No, he isn't. Let him go.
Yeah, the people who say he's a solid flex option any given week have him on the bench the week that he was actually flex worthy.
Yeah. Yes, let's stop trying to make him a thing. Isaiah Crowell, no matter how unsexy that name may be, is the only guy in that backfield who I want.
Yeah, and I own a lot of Crowell, but I am not starting him this week against that Lions defense.
Yeah. All right, I actually think the Lions and the Dolphins are Lions and the Titans are 2 of my favorite defense streams this week. So if you don't take a defense early, if you wait until the last round to draft one, I have the Lions and Titans in probably like 8 or 9 of my 12 leagues.
It's listen, the Lions are a great play this week. I'm not going to disrespect my mighty Miami Dolphins. So don't stream the Titans. Miami's going to go out. They're going to win. I know. I picked them in my pick 'em.
Oh, there you go. All right, last game of the week, the 10 o'clock game on Monday Night Football, Rams at Raiders. So Todd Gurley, we have to wait until the end of the week to see what he can do in 2018. Anybody else that you were just super excited about in this game, aside from Todd Gurley? Lucas, I'll let you kick it off here.
I'm really excited. The one player I'm super excited to watch is Jordy Nelson, just because there's a big question mark. I still think he has a little bit left in the tank, so I'm not starting him this week, but I am very curious to see how him and Amari Cooper play with Derek Carr. But Todd Gurley is really the only person I'm excited to see. I am curious to also see how Cooks fix into the situation with Cooper Kupp and Brandon Woods and how the ball is spread out there.
I love the Jordy pick there, especially with Martavis Bryant getting the indefinite suspension.
Yeah, I'm with Lucas. Looking at the Sleeperwire rankings, we've got Todd Gurley ranked number 1 right now, and he's probably going to be there most of the year, to be honest, at least in my eyes. But think about what he did last year, and then he gets to come out and play against a Khalil Mack-less Raiders. I mean, it's just not fair. It's just not fair. I'm excited to see about him. I'm excited to see how, like you guys said, how Goff spreads the ball around, because I don't think he's going to hone in on one specific receiver. I think he's going to distribute the ball to all 3 of his receivers and Todd Gurley. So I wouldn't, with Cooper Kupp, with Cook, and with who am I missing? Kupp, Cook, and Woods.
Yep.
For me, all 3 of them are nothing better than flexes.
I agree. Until we see how this plays out, I expect to see Cooper Kupp get the red zone work, more of the red zone work. I expect Brandon Cooks to be the burner, and I expect to see a lot of Robert Woods in between the 20s. Yep. And that's kind of how I have things playing out in my head.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, speaking of flexes, let's get into our brand new segment. George Lucas, you ready to flex your muscles?
Let's flex.
Oh, I'm flexing.
All right. So for this segment, we've got 8 different pairs of players, and these are guys who are all flex worthy or would be considered flexible players on your team. So we're just gonna play this guy or this guy. And George, I'll start with you. Sammy Watkins or Alfred Morris this week?
I'm going to take Sammy Watkins because I don't want to start any 49ers running back against the Vikings.
Lucas.
I agree.
Yep. I am also going to take Watkins. James Conner or Alex Collins?
Collins for me.
James Conner for me.
I'm leaning towards Alex Collins as well. Yep, slightly. I did not like him back in April, but I've really grown, not grown on him, but gotten really high on him. Corey Davis or Robbie Anderson?
This one's tough. I'm gonna take Corey Davis against the mighty Miami Dolphins.
So you can't even say that with a straight face. That's the second time in a row.
No, I can't do it. I know my team is terrible. Okay, I get this, but it's my team, man. It's my team. So I'll take Corey Davis against the Dolphins, though, because I know how bad the Dolphins are. And Robbie Anderson, like we discussed earlier, they're playing. The Jets are playing the Lions, and I don't want anything to do with Robbie Anderson because he's going to get covered by Slay.
Lucas, what do you think?
I don't love either of these this week.
Well, that's why it's a flex.
Yeah, and I'm close here, but I want to lean Robbie Anderson purely because I think Sam Darnold is going to force feed him the ball, so I think it's going to be difficult in terms of the reception percentages here for him, but I do think that he's going to catch a couple, and at least one of them will be a big play.
And I'm leaning more towards Corey Davis, and that I'm saying that as someone who has Robbie Anderson higher in my overall rankings. But I do agree Darius Slay is a really, really good cornerback. So Corey Davis for me this week. Royce Freeman or Lamar Miller?
I'm all aboard the Royce Freeman train.
Yeah,
I'm on it. I'm conducting it, and hopefully, if I get my way, it doesn't stop.
I couldn't agree more. We got Royce Freeman in like the 7th round in our Scott Fishbowl league this year.
Wow.
Yep. That's what happens when you
crazy.
draft. That's what happens when you draft in June and no one knows who anyone is.
Yep.
God, I hate slow drafts so much. Fortunately, the Scott Fishbowl, for like being like 21 or 22 rounds, doesn't take super long. Man, my Pro-Am league, just 12 teams, 16 rounds, took literally 7 days. It took us a week, and we had 4-hour pick timers. It took us a week.
That's rough.
Oh my God, it was ridiculous. What about you guys? Because you guys are both commissioning a Sleeperwire Pro-Am league too.
Oh,
Correct.
you were. Yeah. Mine took 3 days. I got the numbers of people that were slightly slower and would text them when it was their turn because they seemed to have notifications off.
Yeah, a lot of guys in my league had the notifications off as well. So I have to get on Twitter and send them a message on Twitter. It was mostly the pros, and to be honest, it was specifically one pro, and I had one AM that he's in the military. He's active duty in the military, and when he goes to work, he works in an area where he can't bring a phone. So I had to work around that. Sometimes I would just turn the timer off for him just because I understand the situation where he can't have the phone where he's at. So it took us almost 2 weeks to do our draft.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, I think we were either the last one done or next to last one done.
Man, how long did it take us to draft our Sleeperwire Dynasty League?
Let's not go there. I think
2 weeks.
I
Like
think
26 rounds, 8-hour timers.
I think Draft Genius is still on the clock.
Anyways, let's get back to this. Kenny Stills or Sterling Shepard this week?
Stills for me.
Yeah, Stills for me. Sterling Shepard's playing the Jags.
Yep.
I don't want nothing to do with that.
Yep. Kenny Stills, wide receiver 1 on Miami. I'm going to take him as well. Nelson Aguilar or Josh Gordon? And I guess I shouldn't have put this question in here because Nelson Aguilar plays tonight. But let's pretend like we can't, that you guys are not listening to this in the future.
I'm going to go Nelson Aguilar here. I think he's the number 1 target for Nick Foles tonight.
Yeah, I agree. So speaking of Draft Genius, he predicted that Nelson Aguilar would have something ridiculous like 1,200 yards this year, 1,300 yards. And talking with him about Aguilar on the side, he's actually won me over. I'm kind of an Aguilar fan, so I'll take Aguilar over Josh Gordon.
All right. I think I would as well, just because, basically the same reasons. The only other person Nick Foles has to throw to is Zach Ertz. I think Aguilar and Ertz, in what could be a very high-scoring game tonight. I hope it is. I hope there's a lot of fantasy relevance in it. And like we said, you guys will know all of this tomorrow, but hopefully Aguilar puts up a big performance. Two left here, Tevin Coleman or AP?
I think Adrian Peterson for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to go with Adrian Peterson as well. He's the quote-unquote starting running back. We know what we're getting with Tevin Coleman. We know he's sharing with Freeman. Plus, he's playing the Eagles' defense, which is a really good run defense. So I'm gonna go with Adrian Peterson here.
Well, Peterson's sharing with Chris Thompson.
Yeah, I think Peterson's got a better chance to punch one in than Coleman does, though.
Okay. Let's finish it up here. The last muscle that we're going to flex, Carlos Hyde or Jamal Williams?
I'm going to go with Carlos Hyde. I think he's just a better overall running back than Jamal Williams.
I'm going with Hyde also, but I like Jamal. Honestly, I'm not so worried about Chicago's defense with a healthy Aaron Rodgers there to take some heat off of the run game.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think of these two, I've got Jamal Williams ranked a little higher, so that's where I'm going to go with this one. So hopefully this little segment helped you guys out making these flex decisions for Sunday. Next week, maybe we won't have Thursday night players in two different of these questions because that makes it kind of difficult. Last thing that we're going to do here, we each picked a quarterback that we're going to stream or that we would stream for week one because some people go the streaming route, and quarterbacks that are owned in less than 50% of leagues. And I'm going with Blake Bortles. The Giants defense is okay, but Blake Bortles has the ability to put up really big numbers. He was great with Keelan Cole last year once Cole started breaking out. Of course, he doesn't have Marquise Lee, but he does have a much better tight end than Mercedes Lewis. So I think having Fournette out there, Yeldon in there, maybe on some passing downs, ASJ, Cole, D.D. Westbrook, and Dante Moncrief, who I've sort of risen on a little bit lately, especially in the red zone. I think Blake Bortles could be a pretty good play against the Giants defense for you this week. Lucas, what about your streamer? I mean, I guess we talked about these earlier, but why don't you reiterate? Who are you streaming this week?
Yeah, mine is Tyrod Taylor, and I think he has a pretty solid week coming up. He has all of his weapons healthy. Josh Gordon's back. Landry is a absolute monster. And don't sleep on Callaway either. This is it for a 3-receiver core. This is one of the strongest wide receiver cores in the entire NFL.
And George, take it away with yours.
All right, mine's going to be Andy Dalton from the Cincinnati Bengals. They're playing the Colts. The Colts are coming into this year. So far, they're ranked the 20th defense overall. So they're back half of the NFL in defense. They've got a full complement of weapons on that are healthy on the Bengals right now. You got AJ Green coming back. You got John Ross is finally healthy. We've seen a little flash from him in the preseason. Joe Mixon should be taking a step forward. Gio Bernard, a healthy Tyler Eifert. There's lots of weapons there. When you think about the Bengals, you don't think that they got a good array of weapons, but they actually do when you look at it. I think Andy Dalton's probably going to get you 2 touchdowns, 250 yards. I think if you're in a pickle or, like I said earlier, if you drafted Carson Wentz and you took Dalton as your backup to him just in case he didn't play week one, you're fine starting Andy Dalton this week.
Yeah, so he's going to have your typical Jay Cutler week.
Less turnovers. And he'll care more.
Oh, yeah, he'll certainly care more. He won't be out there having a cigarette under his face mask. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for the first Thursday show of the 2018 season. As we talked about at the beginning of the show, we have the Sunday Blitz on Sundays. It starts at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. However, you do have a chance to get on the show and ask us questions before anybody else, and that's if you go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/sleeperwire. Just pledge. It's just a small amount, but you get some great things. You get to join us 20 minutes early on the Sunday Blitz. On the live mail sack show, you get priority answers. So we answer your questions first. So you don't have to wait and listen down the line for everybody else's questions to get answered. We answer your questions before everybody else's. You can get a Sleeperwire mug and a Sleeperwire t-shirt. access to the Sleeperwire Draft Genius Draft Kit, which, yes, draft season is over, but guess what? We're still putting stuff out there in the draft kit that's going to be useful in season. So patreon.com/Sleeperwire. Join us on the Sunday Blitz early every single Sunday. Also, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Sleeperwire Show. I am on there. I have a new Twitter new Twitter handle. It is Prof_Chris SW. George, you were on there at BFTG Pod, and Lucas is Sleeperwire LBB. You can follow us on the Sleeper app at Professor Chris, BFTGO, and Sleeperwire LBB, and then on the Fantasy Life app at Professor Chris and Geo.
Right.
George, Lucas, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Hey, pleasure was all mine. I got one question for you guys. Are you ready for some football?
Are you ready for some football? Oh, yeah. And ready for a carry-on too.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks for listening, guys.